Webcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for your attendance on this afternoon's BTC Software and BrightPay webinar. We hope you are all very well. We will be starting the webinar just in 1 minute's time, just to make sure that everyone is in attendance. As we understand, there's a number of registrants on today's webinar. Just to confirm that you can hear me, if you could please put a Y into the questions box, and maybe Rachel, if you want to just confirm that everyone can hear you as well. Maybe do a quick test.
Yeah, welcome everyone and good afternoon. Yeah, if you can hear me as well, it'd be great to know that the sound is okay.
Perfect. Yeah, that's really clear. I can hear you. I can hear you well. So thank you, everyone. There's a lot of Ys that have just come into the chat box, so thank you very much for that. And we'll start the webinar in just 1 minute's time, just to make sure that everyone is in attendance. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for your attendance on today's webinar. My name is Daniel Keane, and I'm very lucky to be joined with Rachel Hines of BrightPay. And together we're going to bring you today's webinar discussing how to prepare your practice for hybrid working. So Rachel is going to take us through the first few slides. Or I'll cover the first few slides, and then Rachel's going to be discussing BrightPay. So for those of you who are already aware of BrightPay, you'll be familiar with the offering, but those of you who are maybe BTC software users, we'll take a little bit about who are BrightPay and also who are BTC software, if neither of you are aware. So who are BTC Software? We're very proud of the fact that we're multi-award winning. We picked up a few awards at the Accounting Web Software Excellence Awards, things like Software Solution Suite of the Year, Practice Management, Accounts and Tax. We have around 10,000 users of our software, which is dramatically increased with the introduction of MTD for VAT. We now have over 10,000 users of the software. Of those users are accountants in practice, but also accountants in business as well. We have over 22 years of experience. We have high quality technical support team, which is all UK based. We offer seamless integration, and we believe we're excellent value for money as well.
Brilliant. And I'll jump in here now with who are BrightPay. So I suppose for those of you who don't know BrightPay is an award-winning payroll software that makes managing payroll quick and easy. At the moment, our products are used to process the payroll for over 320,000 businesses across the UK and Ireland, and we have been developing payroll software for over 30 years. BrightPay has a 99% customer satisfaction rate for an impressive 7 years in a row, and we have a 5-star rating on both Trustpilot and Software Advice. BrightPay is a desktop-based payroll software, and it's available for Windows and Mac. And all BrightPay licenses include 10 activations, and this means that payroll processing is possible by up to 10 users or from 10 different locations. We do also have an optional cloud add-on called BrightPay Connect, which backs up the payroll data to the cloud. And bureaus, clients and employees all have access to a self-service online portal, which we will look at later on in today's webinar. So I suppose looking first at the agenda today, I'm going to take part 1, how COVID-19 has changed how we work. I'll be passing over to Dan then again for the restructure of how we work post-COVID-19, and we will have a look at BTC software then. And I'll jump back on again to show you a quick look at BrightPay. And at the very end of the webinar then, we will have a questions and answers section where we will answer any questions that you may have. If you do have any questions, you can type them into the questions box on your control panel at the side of the screen, and we'll try to get through as many questions as possible. This webinar is also being recorded, and all attendees will receive an email at some stage later this week with a link to the recording of the webinar, so it's no problem if you do need to leave at any stage. Also in the email, there will be a copy of the presentation slides that we are using today, and we will include some useful documents and additional resources in the email as well. So we'll start off first with part one of today's webinar, how COVID-19 has changed how we work. The impact of COVID-19 on the way we work is one that can be seen across almost every business type and within every department. As lockdowns swept across the world in March 2020, the speed with which companies adapted was nothing short of remarkable, switching to a remote working model virtually overnight. The move has truly been one of the biggest changes we have seen in the workplace in recent times. However, it has also been highly disruptive. Companies have had to quickly adopt new initiatives and technologies to ensure employee safety while maintaining productivity. But what we didn't realise then is that these changes were not just temporary. The pandemic has fundamentally shifted the way in which people work forever. The traditional office jobs may never be the same. The traditional 9-to-5 workday in an office environment as we know it is dead. Now that employees are allowed to return to their workplaces, many businesses are questioning what the future of the workplace looks like. Companies need to look at the pandemic as an opportunity to modernise how people work. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, remote working has been normalised. There is, of course, a more hybrid model, that is, people working some days from home and using a central office environment for the remaining days. As hybrid working gives employers and employees the best of both worlds, this arrangement has become very popular post-pandemic. Many companies have decided to make this move a permanent feature of their business model. However, remote working and hybrid working should not be the only consideration for employers. It's also important to be open to flexible working. While often used interchangeably, flexible working is not the same as a hybrid working. Flexible working is a much wider term and refers to a variety of arrangements or alternative work schedules, such as maybe a 4-day work week or 6-hour work days, maybe flexible start and finish times, or even the likes of job sharing arrangements. The UK has been ahead of the curve, with employees having the right to request flexible working since 2014. And after more than a year of enforced home working, employers are now experiencing an influx of flexible working requests. The legal position is that all employees with at least 26 weeks continuous employment are able to make a statutory request for flexible working. However, the government is also considering proposals to allow all employees the right to request flexible working from day one of a job, rather than, as of now, having to wait 6 months. In addition to this, businesses will be obliged to respond to requests quicker than the current maximum of 3 months. If a request is refused, the employer will need to explain why and suggest an alternative work arrangement. Employers can only refuse a request if they have a good business reason for doing so. At this stage, a certainty of the post-pandemic world is that the rise of flexible working and remote working will redefine the workplace. It has been a turning point, not just for employers, but for everyone to realise just how beneficial remote working can be. Employees have more time to see their families, exercise, and dedicate time to themselves. Research by the BBC shows that commuters will gain an hour on average in their workday, and 70% of those who work flexibly say they are less stressed as a result of working flexibly. And as well as the health benefits, it often results in happier employees. They then potentially work harder and are more productive, and it can also result in increased loyalty and reduced office space costs. However, In order to maximize the benefits of remote working, employers must be aware of the unintended pitfalls of this new landscape. And these are things that you should keep in mind before implementing more permanent remote working policies. One of the first and most obvious pitfalls of hybrid working lies in the ability or inability to communicate with colleagues. For those working in the office, communication isn't a luxury, it's a given. However, when working remotely, communication is something that needs extra effort and extra attention. It's important that you keep all staff up to date on company updates or announcements, regardless of whether they're in the office or working from home. Think of a way that you can push out communications to your employees. An example here would be an employee app where it sends notifications to employees' devices when you have important announcements. The click rate of a push notification is 7 times higher than that of email, and so employee apps with smartphone alerts are a great way of communicating with employees when it comes to important updates. It's also important to consider communication on a peer-to-peer level. If employees are only able to speak to team members over messaging services or by email, there's a much higher chance of miscommunication or even simply just missing information altogether. An idea here would be to implement a video call policy. Anytime an employee is chatting to another employee, the preference should be by video call rather than a voice call. Office-based communication is easy, but remote communication is unforgiving of errors. In the office, if you miscommunicate, it's obvious quite quickly and it's easy to rectify the mistake. But if you miscommunicate on a Zoom call, your team member may have 24 hours to ruminate on what was said or not. While technology lets us communicate more than ever, we still understand each other as little as ever when communicating remotely. With employees working from home, you need to ensure that they have the tools they need to stay productive, to collaborate with, and most importantly, get the job done. This has meant that most of practices have embraced digital ways of working. Surprisingly, research published in September 2021 shows that only a third of employers say their organization has provided the tools and technology to maintain employee productivity while working remotely. And this is despite over half of employers understanding that investing in automation boosts productivity. You must also find ways to ensure employees remain productive and connected, but at the same time not being overburdened. Unpaid overtime has risen sharply to 9.2 hours per week on average, and this is up from 7.3 hours pre-pandemic. Hybrid workers gave their highest amount of free time to employers, and so it's something to keep in mind when introducing a permanent hybrid working arrangement. The thing about remote working is that it can be challenging, not only to productivity, but also to the company culture. The distinct cultural differences between office-based workers and home workers can over time result in increased tension on both sides. It's easy to imagine office workers becoming jealous of the freedoms that home working offers, particularly if they have to face a long commute into the office. Meanwhile, those working from home might feel disconnected from their colleagues and grow jealous of the bonds that form around the water cooler and the free-flowing discussions throughout the day. It's important to take careful steps to ensure that the team continue to work in harmony and there is no hostility between those who work in the office and those who remain working remotely. It's worth considering that employees with children are probably the most likely to request flexible working arrangements, and you need to be aware of a divide between those employees with children and those without. For company culture to remain intact, It's important to provide guidance and support to meet the expectations and needs of the different types of workers. Eliminating the divide completely is not something that can be done easily with remote working in place, but you do need to work hard to keep the divide to a very minimum. Throughout the pandemic, people have been completely isolated from any meaningful interaction with colleagues. This has created a mental health time bomb that's costly for both employers and the health of employees. A recent study found that poor mental health in the workplace is costing UK businesses up to £45 billion per year. Cases of stress, anxiety, and depression have soared during lockdown, while abuse of drugs and alcohol and eating disorders also spiked. Obviously, remote working during lockdown was a lot more harmful to a person's mental health than remote working in normal times, when people can maybe work from a cafe or go out for a dinner in the evening or go for walks. But even now, as we return to some level of normality, with the removal of social interactions, remote working in any capacity can have a negative impact on mental health. In the office, managers can see if team morale is falling, and they can do something about it. Remotely, it's hard to gauge morale and even harder to do anything about it. Unfortunately, mental health is often a silent struggle. Many people don't know how to seek help, and even if they do, accessing that help isn't always easy. On top of that, there's still a stigma attached to receiving help, which can stand in the way of actually availing of mental health services. It's important that businesses are proactive in their approach to mental health and provide the kind of employee benefits that their team will benefit from most. An example would be introducing an employee assistance program that provides your team with the support they need on everything from mental health through to the practical issues of day-to-day life. Even just doing more to reduce the stigma attached to mental health can be a massive help. Many people feel reluctant to talk about mental health at work, and one way to help is by introducing mental health and well-being training. Educating managers and employees on issues such as burnout, work fatigue, and even workplace anxiety can allow for a supportive work culture that is far more accepting of those struggling with their mental health. Employers can also get involved with simple interventions such as checking in with employees, treating them with both respect and compassion, or encouraging regular daily exercise and meditative practices. Communicate with employees about the importance of switching off outside of working hours, and even suggest useful apps such as Happify, Calm, and MoodKit, which have all been designed to recognise and support mental health struggles. Paying attention to the well-being of your workforce goes a long way. It won't eradicate mental health issues among your workforce, but it will certainly help. With the proactive approach, you can show your team how much you care while offering invaluable and often life-changing support for your staff. Another downfall to watch out for is how it will impact employee turnover. Traditionally, flexible working was seen as an employee benefit, helping to attract and retain talented employees. However, as remote working is now more commonplace, and with the new proposals to allow flexible working from day one, it's no longer the appealing employee value proposition that it once was. Employers need to be more proactive in offering flexible working arrangements to existing and potential employees. According to a new survey conducted by FlexJobs, 58% of workers say they would absolutely look for a new job if they weren't allowed to continue working remotely. If talent wants hybrid working, then talent will go to firms which enable it. In the accounting sector, we've seen many major firms embracing the new workplace options. Most recently in the US, we've seen PwC announce that 40,000 of its employees can work remotely. If bigger businesses continue to implement hybrid working options, it's likely that it will impact smaller and mid-sized firms with growing competitiveness among them to offer options for remote working to their employees. To attract and retain the best people, companies need a compelling story that elevates their employee value proposition. Rather than obliging employees to ask for flexible working, job adverts should set out what sort of options are available for the role. Simply offering flexible working as an employee benefit is no longer enough. This goes hand in hand with the next challenge of remote working, which is onboarding new employees. Recruiting, onboarding, and training employees remotely, particularly for less experienced individuals at the early stages of their career, can prove challenging. In an office, it's easier to pick up information and the ways of working by listening to others. Therefore, where possible, it's a good idea to have a new hire based full-time in the office, even if it's just for the first 3 to 4 weeks. Where remote working is the only option, there are things you can do to improve the onboarding process. For example, you could implement a buddy system. This is where the new employee is paired up with a more experienced employee for help with day-to-day informal questions and company information. This will ease the onboarding process for the new employee and help ensure that they don't miss out on the informal learning that those in the office benefit from. So the question is, should smaller firms adopt hybrid working? And it's not that hybrid working and remote working should be avoided at all costs. The message that we're trying to convey is quite the opposite, in fact. Yes, there are a number of considerations that you should take into account, but with the right tools, remote working can truly be a success for small businesses. The three things to keep in mind are more autonomy for employees, more automation for employees, and the right tools for employees. Looking first at autonomy, one way to help successfully implement hybrid working in the workplace is to empower employees and give them the freedom in determining their working arrangements. By having greater control over how and when they work, it will lead to greater satisfaction and productivity and reduced stress. And it's not just giving them control over flexible working, you can give them more control over other areas of their employment as well, such as an employee self-service where they can do a lot of tasks themselves, such as accessing payslips, managing their leave, accessing employment and HR documents, etc. Next is automation, and looking at the future of the workplace and how it will evolve in the years to come, it's without doubt that it will be more automated. Recent research found that 43% of accountants have said that their work has increased as a result of the pandemic. In actual fact, I think that figure should be much higher than that. For many small businesses, their accountant was the first person they turned to for advice on government schemes, such as the SEISS and the CJRS. For those working in payroll, keeping up to date with the ever-changing furlough scheme took centre stage. Workloads became a lot heavier as a result, and everyday life of payroll processors was profoundly affected by the impacts of the pandemic. As a result of the pandemic, payroll processors and accountants have been pushed towards reviewing, updating, and investing in technology solutions. In the last year, the industry has seen a huge uptake in cloud solutions. For many, though, it's only now that the CJRS has ended that they can take the time to review the technology they use and look at how they can better automate their workload. By investing in technological improvements, you can eliminate repetitive administrative tasks. This allows you to spend more time to focus on delivering your services and developing your business. And finally, looking at how technology helps make hybrid working a success. Technological changes during COVID-19, the likes of video conferencing, this is all positive. We have to always be looking to embrace technology. The pandemic has shown us that by using the right tools and the right systems, remote working can be successful without a significant drop in employee productivity or the quality of their work. And now I'm going to pass you back to Dan again for part 2 of today's webinar.
Thank you very much, Rachel. So in part 2, we're going to look at the restructure. I will just share my screen with you now. There we are. So we're going to be looking at the restructure of how we work post COVID-19. Okay, so the transition phase. The pandemic created the first opportunity for many to experience working 100% remotely. For some, the experience was challenging, but for others, it was a complete game changer. They were able to experience a new work-life balance, and remote working has resulted in many questioning if they're able to return to work in the traditional way, which for most is a Monday to Friday in the office. A statistic that was presented by Ring Central stated that 77% of UK employees favour hybrid working, and employers have had to think about how they structure the working environment for their employees to ensure that they stay productive. Productivity is what employees want from their workforce, and finding the right working environment for each employee will improve how they operate. So, for example, a 2020 Finder study showed that 2/3 of the companies surveyed saw improved productivity of remote staff over office employees. And remote work improves that allowing the team to work from home isn't actually a bad option. So with some craving the work from home life and others unable to work adequately at home, finding that work-life balance for both parties isn't always easy. Therefore, we're going to look at the hybrid model, which allows for a more balanced way of working. So some benefits of hybrid working. The hybrid working model allows employees to alternate between different working environments, such as working from home or in the office. This model can be organized around each employee's needs. Happy employees create a more productive workforce, and hybrid work allows for flexibility, which can increase the well-being of each employee if carried out correctly. The advantages of hybrid working are as follows. As an employee, you can recruit talent from wherever because you have the option to remote work, opening the doors to a bigger pool of talent, and that's going to allow those who have family commitments, for example, to stay closer to home and removes the commute to work. So removal of the commute gives them time back to do as they please, and also if the workforce isn't in the office, you do not have to rent as much office space, which reduces costs. Hot desking can be the new option. So the main disadvantages of hybrid working that you do have could be the lack of communication within the working environment. So employees could start to feel isolated due to less interaction, as Rachel mentioned, the water cooler moment, in the office or working from home. In addition, the work culture may become less apparent. So hybrid working implementation. In a study with EX Insights, participants were asked the top things that came to mind when thinking about hybrid working, and the analysis resulted in the following feedback: employee engagement, managing people's well-being, trust, fairness, productivity, and safety. So to understand what working structures are best for employees, a good starting point would be to survey what it is exactly that your staff want. So a few questions that you could ask your staff members, your employees. Have you relocated during COVID? I know there's a few BTC software members that have moved around the country or have moved out of their, well, me being one of them, have moved out of their parents' homes. If the office was open to you, how many days would you come in? Would it be once a fortnight? Would it be twice a week? Do you have the right environment to work at home? Are you properly set up? Do you have the right monitors set up? Do you have fast internet? Things like that are all important to ask your staff when working from home. Has your work-life balance improved since you've been working remotely? Is obviously going to be a really important one as well. So once you have your results, you can understand your staff requirements and what you can do to keep in line with your business objectives. So team interaction and communication. To create a suitable hybrid model for your staff, it's essential that you establish clear communication and team identity. TeamStage provided statistics that highlight the importance of open communication between team members. From their research, 99.1% of employees wanted to be part of an organization that nourishes honest communication. So with so many technological advancements, this is now possible to do so remotely to a certain degree. As we saw with lockdown, 100 companies popped up. You've got Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and various other systems that ensure that you can interact and build team spirit. Team communication building can include weekly, monthly, and quarterly virtual catch-ups or virtual coffee breaks. So that's something that we at BTC Software implement. We have a coffee break once a week. And on our end of week meetings, about once a month, we have a kind of a tool, if you like, or almost a game called How Full Is Your Tank? And so what that involves is it involves one achievement that you've had at work, a working achievement, one achievement that you've had outside of work, a personal achievement, and then also how full is your tank? So a rating from 1 to 10 on how full is your tank in terms of how geared up and ready you are and how happy you are in your work life. Another research statistics from TeamStage showed that global online collaboration market is expected to reach $59.86 billion by 2023, and a solid 62% of employees predict that instant messaging apps will be definitely massively used. Okay, so part 3, what can accountants do to keep up with the new way of working? So how can BTC Software help accountants? The first thing is the cloud solution. So you can work from anywhere in the world. Your employees can access client information to do their jobs no matter what they decide to work. What we do offer is a hosted environment in that we install a VPN on each of the machines that need to access the software. That offers kind of the gateway key to unlock the data that's stored securely in the cloud. So we use Amazon Web Services to host the data, and the data stored in 2 UK-based Amazon data centers. Work from home in the office or at the client's site, so your employees can have flexibility to take their laptops anywhere, including client visits. The cloud solution provides data security, so you've got data security so that you can ensure your client information is safe. Practice management is the other solution that BTC Software can help with. Simple task management, you can make changes to client information in real time, which means that your colleagues working elsewhere can see the changes immediately and take over any tasks that need addressing. GDPR compliant client portals to securely send tax and accounts data directly from or directly through the client from tax and accounts package. A couple of ones that we integrate with are called MyDocSafe and DocuSign. An accounts package that integrates two-way with many online cloud bookkeeping tools, QuickBooks, Xero, FreeAgent, Reckon One, and actually soon to be Sage as well. And that ensures that you're versatile and well equipped when new clients who already have existing cloud-based bookkeeping suites come to you for your services. So we're going to look at a very quick demonstration of BTC Software. What I will do is open up the software and switch screens. Okay, so we're looking at the client hub of BTC Software. The first kind of real feature of BTC Software's practice management is that you've got a client database, a client hub that stores and records all of your client details. So it's split into two views. You have an organizational view, which covers all your limited companies, partnerships, trusts, and charities. And you have the individual view, which houses all of your sole traders and any individuals that are associated with those organizations. So, for example, directors of limited companies, partners of partnerships, trustees, that sort of thing. Now you have a series of tabs that run along the top, as you can see here. Generally, how the software works is you select the client that you're working on from the right-hand side, and all the information that falls under these tabs is going to be pertaining to that client that's selected, i.e. my demo client there, which is Smith Software of Hammersmith. Now, not all of these tabs are mandatory in terms of building up a set of accounts and filing to Companies House or a tax return and sending to HMRC, but a lot of these do include information that you can update on the client to ensure that all of the information is in real time. It's within one solution, as opposed to having to update several different applications, running the risk of not accessing real-time data. It's all under the one roof. So you've got details here, which holds the majority of the standing client data or business data, if you're indeed a business using our software. Some of these you can import directly from Companies House, so you can search for a company name or number. For example, if I put in BTC Software, I could populate the information held within Companies House directly into that details page. In addition to that, we do have links with Company Secretarial, which kind of acts as a master as it integrates automatically with Companies House. You can form companies on there as well and synchronize that with the practice management database. Some other practice management features that are worth showing you include Know Your Client, or KYC as it's relatively known. You've got risk levels and risk notes up at the top there in line with anti-money laundering. So you can record even if you met the client face-to-face as a tick box. And then you've got some validation checks in here as well. So you can scan in identity verification documents, something like a driving license or a passport, or you can simply move one in from the desktop if you've already got it saved onto there. We've got some further notes at the bottom, and then in line with GDPR, some marketing preferences. Now, key dates is a nice one to show you as well, because these key dates are automatically populated for you. Minimal effort required from you. You don't have to key in any of these manual dates, although they can be manually changed. And these are derived directly from the details tab. So where you use the Companies House search and import details such as VAT period end, UFS financial year end, these key dates will automatically populate. So if you've got a client on the phone asking whether they have CT payments due, or if you're a business and are looking for that information, with a click of a button, you've got this nice dashboard view which highlights all of those important dates. Another few tabs just to show you are reports and letters, which allows you to create global templates, so tax return covering letters and client letters. So the covering letters will sit on the front of your year-end accounts and tax return reports. The software allows you to add your own logos, signatures, backgrounds to those covering letters to look professional, and obviously include your required branding. And you've also got client letters come under this category as well. So we're talking things like engagement letters, tax questionnaires, payment reminder letters, all of which we have templates for you. But we've even had clients of ours create their own templates using the software for things like newsletters or notice letters to do with MTD, GDPR, or AML. We also have folders, which is our document management. So it gives you the ability to scan documents directly into the software. Moving towards that paperless office, something like an invoice, for example. I've saved some different invoices here under a folder called time and fees. And you can bring any sort of document that you want to in here. So it could be a PDF, it could be a CSV, a PowerPoint, Excel spreadsheet, whichever. Once you bring a document into here, either if you scan it in, move in a single document, or even a whole folder, you can view the document, you can edit it, you can email it, and it'll open up as an attachment within Outlook. Or we integrate with two different companies. One of them is called DocuSign, as you can see here, and the other is called MyDocSafe. What that will allow you to do is send any document directly from our software through a secure portal, as opposed to sending it across in an email where it can be intercepted. The client is then email notified that you sent them a document. Within that email, there'll be a link to sign into their own account, so they have access to their own client library where they can pick up that document that you sent them, either on their phone, laptop, tablet, computer, electronically sign it off, and then send it straight back to you. So it's all GDPR compliant. It's quick communication with the clients directly from BTC Software, and also gives your clients their own client portal. So if they're sat there with their financial advisor requesting for documents that you've previously sent them, they've got no excuse. They've got access to that, and they can bring those documents up straight away. Another few tabs just to mention are files for the tracking of physical files. If you have files recorded or stored in a specific filing cabinet, archived, or in storage, you can keep a track of those physical files in here. And then notes is a free-form note section in which you can make any notes that you want to on the client. Now, just if we've got a little bit of time here, we can look at a set of year-end accounts. If I open up a set of year-end accounts, I can demonstrate the integration that we have with the online bookkeeping packages, namely the four are Xero, QuickBooks, Free Agent, and Reckon One. And the integration that we do offer is a two-way integration. So as well as being able to log into the bookkeeping package directly from within BTC Software, any journal adjustments, including bringing the corporation tax provision back from the corporation tax return module, which is done automatically, that can all be posted back to the bookkeeping package directly from within our software. So we're not just kind of offering a kind of a fancy login where you can log into one of those bookkeeping packages. We're actually able to post all of those journal adjustments and the corporation tax figure back to the bookkeeping package as well. So I can jump into my extended trial balance using the table of contents on the left-hand side. You can see I've got my original trial balance column in column C and my prior year comparatives in column J. And if I edit this particular record, and select the trial balance option up in the top left-hand corner, you can see from the drop down the different bookkeeping packages that we can work with. And you can even use the custom option at the bottom there to import via an Excel spreadsheet. So there we go. That does it for the demonstration of BTC software. Again, I will just switch screens back out into the presentation. And I'll hand over to Rachel, who will be doing the next bit.
Brilliant. Thanks, Dan. Can you share the screen over to me again, please?
Yep, I'll do that now. There we are. Hopefully you should be able to share your screen now, Rachel.
Okay, it's not giving me that option there.
I think that's my fault. I just changed you as the presenter, so that should be it. There we go. Perfect. We can see that now.
Brilliant. So Dan has just showed you how BTC software can help accountants, and now I want to show you how BrightPay can help. And there's a number of different ways that BrightPay's products can help accountants with hybrid working. The 6 points that I'm going to focus on for today's webinar are payroll automation, multi-user access, cloud backups, introducing employee self-service, streamlining communications to employees, and helping you with HR policies. And rather than talking you through each of these points, I am just going to jump into the software to show you how we can help with each of these areas. So here we are in BrightPay payroll software. And the first point that I want to touch on is payroll automation. And accountants have realized just how important it is to automate tasks as much as possible over the past year. At BrightPay, a lot of what we do and a lot of the features that we introduce are designed to make an accountant's life easier. So the first feature that I want to mention today is our direct integration with various accounting packages. Essentially, this allows you to send the payroll journals directly to your general ledger from within BrightPay. You don't need to worry about manually copying in the figures or messing about with exporting and importing CSV files. And as you can see here, BrightPay includes this direct integration with all of the main accounting systems, and they're all the main ones that we just saw with the BTC software as well. Another thing that can really help with automating payroll is the ability to pay employees directly through BrightPay. Our new integration with Modular will give you a fast, secure, and easy way to pay employees through the payroll software. This eliminates the need to create bank files and the manual workload associated with making payments to employees. Instead, employees can be paid directly, instantly, using the faster payments service. This feature can also be used to make payments to HMRC and 2 subcontractors, and you do need to have a modular account to use this payments feature. I just want to close out of the payroll now, and the next feature that I want to show you is the batch payroll processing. And this feature is only available to payroll bureaus and accountants who process payroll for a number of clients. So you have the ability to finalize currently open pay slips, you can check for coding notices, and you can check for you can send outstanding RTI and CIS submissions to HMRC for multiple clients all at the same time. And this allows you to save time on manual repetitive tasks, especially if you have a lot of payrolls that don't change from week to week or where a large number of single director companies are on the payroll. I'm going to go back into Alan's auto repairs again, and now I want to talk to you about the optional cloud add-on called BrightPay Connect. And if you are using BrightPay Connect, when you open the payroll, BrightPay will automatically check to see if there's a more up-to-date version of the employer file. So in other words, where someone else in your organization worked on this employer, or maybe even you worked on this employer from a different computer. If a more up-to-date version is available, you will be given the option to download and use the most recent version, or you can also continue using this version that we're trying to open. As well as that, you will also be notified if another person is currently in the employer file, and this is to prevent the risk of conflicting copies where multiple users are processing payroll for the same company at the same time. If someone else is already in this particular payroll file, you can be notified when the other person has finished, and it will also let the other person know that you are waiting to access the payroll. The second option here is to continue anyway, and if you choose this option, it will notify the other user and prevent them from syncing any pending changes to BrightPay Connect. This functionality uses both the payroll software and the BrightPay Connect add-on in tandem, so you need to be using both BrightPay Connect and the payroll software to have this functionality. At the top right of the screen, you will see a green cloud icon, and this means that payroll is connected to BrightPay Connect. With BrightPay Connect, the payroll data is automatically backed up to the cloud every 15 minutes, and you can access a chronological history of all backups that can be restored at any time if needed. Because the payroll data is stored online, we have designed it so that you, your clients, and their employees can all access an online self-service portal to view and manage various aspects of the payroll. So here I want to go to the employer dashboard. And this is what the self-service dashboard looks like for clients. And this is also what it looks like for you, the payroll bureau or accountant. And here the client can see a summary of the employer details, amounts due to HMRC, any upcoming employee leave. And we also have notifications along the left side of the screen. So for example, if an employee has requested annual leave. You will see these tabs across the top of the screen, and I'm going to have a very quick look in each one of these. So first is employees, and here the client can access employee payslips, or they can click into each employee's profile. And with BrightPay Connect, payslips will automatically be available to employees in their payslip library, either on the payday or maybe even one day before the payday. So there's no need for you to manually distribute the payslips to your employees. Next is subcontractors, and here the client can view subcontractor details and P&D statements. Within the reports then, any report that is set up and saved on the payroll software will appear here. So once the payroll has been finalized, your client can log in here and run their own payroll reports. There's no need for you to email them across to the client each pay period, and also while email communications isn't as secure as well. It also means that you can access these reports on the go from any internet browser without the need to open the payroll software. Next is a company-wide employee calendar with an overview of all employees' past and scheduled leave. So it's an easy way for your client to keep track of who is on leave and when. Next is HMRC payments, and all of the amounts that are due to HMRC will appear here. And the client can click into each month to view a full breakdown of the P30 and communicate with you that they have made the payment to HMRC. Next is documents, and employers and HR managers can upload documents and resources to distribute them to employees through a secure online portal. And it's a great way of communicating with your employees. Your clients can upload any type of document that they want to distribute to their employees, such as an employment contract, a company handbook, or even the likes of a hybrid working policy. Employees have a self-service app which they can log into to view any document which is being shared with them. And I'll come back to look at this from an employee point of view in a couple of minutes. If I go into a document here, you'll see it's not just documents that you can upload. You can also add messaging in here as well and use this as a way of communicating with your employees. Maybe a Christmas party is coming up and you want employees to RSVP as soon as possible. Documents and resources can be distributed to all employees, to employees in a particular department, or even employees on an individual basis. You can also send notifications to employees so that they get an email notification and also an instant alert on their smartphone or tablet when a document has been shared with them or when they've received some messaging. And you can also view an activity log to see who has accessed the document and when. So it's a great way of protecting employers to make sure their employees have seen that important documentation. I'm going to go back to the dashboard again because I want to look at some of these notifications in more detail. First is a notification saying an employee has requested annual leave. And with BrightPay Connect, you can set up unlimited users, each with their own user permissions. So for example, as well as the client themselves, you can also set up department managers so that they can manage the leave for employees within their department without having access to sensitive payroll information. The manager will receive an email when an employee requests leave, and they can log in here to access the online portal to approve the leave. Once a leave request has been approved, it will automatically appear on the employee's calendar, but it will also appear on the payroll software on your desktop, ready for you to start processing the payroll. Looking down at these notifications then, the bottom one here is submit payroll entry for week 20. And as an accountant, you can send a request to the client for the payroll information. So the client can click in here, and this is where the client can enter the payment information for this particular pay period. So there's no need for the client to be manually sending you CSV files or maybe information about employees' hours in the body of an email or over the phone. It's all done through this secure online portal. So there's two different options here. The client can click into each individual employee, and this is very handy if the payroll is consistent each week, but maybe there's one employee that's a little bit different this week. Maybe they worked overtime that needs to be added, or if they're entitled to a bonus or commission, for example. Going back again, the second option here is for the client to import payments, additions, and deductions for all their employees at the same time. And this is probably the easier option where the hours change from week to week. The client can simply upload the employee timesheets, for example. And here they can also notify you of any new starters that have started working for them. The client needs to enter all of the employee's personal, employment, and payment information, and it saves you chasing after all of this information. Once you have checked the information that was entered by the client, you can simply click a button to download and apply this information into BrightPay. There's no need to manually enter hours and pay rates or manually setting up new employees in the payroll software. Back on the dashboard again, the last notification here is a payroll approval request. And you can send this to the client before you have finalized the payroll. And this will automatically send a payroll summary to the client through their secure online portal. The client can review the payroll and approve it if everything looks okay. Or if there's something that's not right, they can reject it and add a comment so that you know what figures to amend. Essentially, it puts the onus on the client for signing off on the payroll, and there's a full audit trail that keeps a record of all interactions that happen between you and the client. So that's essentially the online employer dashboard. And I mentioned employees also have access to a self-service portal, which they can log into on a smartphone and tablet app. The employee will receive notifications when a new payslip is available, when a HR document has been shared with them, or when an annual leave request has been approved. And here on the app, the employee has visibility of how much leave they have remaining. They can view their notifications. They can go into the documents to access their payslip library and access HR documents. Within the calendar, they can view and manage their annual leave and request leave. And in My Details, they can view and update their personal details so that you can ensure that they are GDPR compliant. So looking back at the 6 ways that BrightPay can help with hybrid working, we saw the different ways that BrightPay automates payroll. I explained how BrightPay can be activated on up to 10 different PCs and showed you our multi-user checks to prevent the risk of conflicting copies. We then moved on and looked at BrightPay Connect and how it automatically backs up the payroll information to the cloud, keeping your client's payroll data safe. With BrightPay Connect, there's also the self-service portal for bureaus, clients, and their employees. And as part of that, you can easily communicate with all employees, regardless of where they're working. What I didn't touch on yet is the HR policies. And here I just want to very quickly mention Bright Contracts, which is another product that we offer. Bright Contracts allows you to easily create tailored professional company handbooks and contracts of employment. And many accountants are using Bright Contracts as a new service to offer to their clients. More recently, Bright Contracts has been updated with a number of new policies, such as a hybrid working policy, a vaccine policy, COVID secure guidelines, and so much more. We do also have another webinar coming up on the 16th of November, where we'll talk about the various policies that businesses should implement when it comes to hybrid working and how Bright Contracts can help. So if you're interested in attending this webinar, maybe just let us know in the questions box and we'll get in touch to make sure you get booked onto the webinar. So I think that brings us to the end of today's webinar. So I'm not sure if I'm going to pass it back to Dan to your screen, am I?
Yep, I think so. I'll just share back my screen now. Oh, there you are. So we are going to have some, or we do have a little bit of time for some questions and answers. That is, of course, the end of the webinar. So thank you, everyone, for your attendance. Those who are interested in asking any questions, you're more than welcome to use that GoToMeeting panel on the right-hand side of your screen. Or the other option is, if you don't want to ask a question on the webinar, you are welcome to contact me or Rachel directly. Our email and telephone numbers are there. Yeah, obviously there is an offer for 10% off your first order for BTC software for BrightPay customers that are on this particular webinar. So from me, thank you very much for your attendance on this webinar. And we will be sticking around for some questions and answers at the end. So I think me and Rachel will just hang on for a couple of minutes just to give you a chance to ask any questions. And yeah, Rachel, if you'd like to, welcome to sign off as well.
Great. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us for the webinar. Like like I said, it was a very quick look at the BrightPay today and very focused on the hybrid options and how we can help with that. But we do run online demos of both the payroll software and Connect on a daily basis. So if you do want to see the software in more detail, or if you have any questions, again, just get in touch with me on my contact details on screen.
Fantastic. And the same goes with BTC software as well. You're more than welcome to take out a free trial, or we do offer one-to-one demos. Okay, so we'll just join you in a couple of minutes' time just to give you a chance to ask some questions, and we'll go from there. Okay, so we do have a couple of questions in already, so thank you very much for those. A couple of people, I did mention the trial very briefly, a couple of people have asked how long the trial is. So the trial is 7 days. It's a 7-day no obligation free trial in which you have full access to the BTC software solutions, so that's practice management, accounts, and tax. Rachel, is there a trial of BrightPay as well, or how's the best way to view BrightPay? Is it via a demo, as you mentioned?
Yeah, we do have a 60-day free trial as well. So if people want to download the free trial, a lot of people, it's nearly an easier option just playing around with it, where you can have a sample company that you can play around with. You don't need to use your own information from the start. So it's a nice, handy way to get used to the software.
Fantastic. A question that I've got here is an existing customer. How do we check which platform of BTC software we already have? You're welcome to call in. It should be available on the kind of the back end of our website. You should have a kind of a login, which will show you which solutions you have. So the kind of the standard set is PM, which is practice management, AP, which is accounts production, and then CT, which is corporation tax. PM does cover the majority of times individual, partnership, and trust tax returns, so the self-assessment side of things as well. Someone's asked, Rachel, how do you suggest we get clients on board using the dashboard? We give access to all our existing customers, but they don't use it and still email in the hours/ask for holiday leave updates regularly.
Yeah, I suppose a lot of it really is educating clients on the benefits that they can have as well. We do have a client hub on our website, and we can send that on to you if you need it. Just give me a shout. But yeah, essentially, you can send the client hub on to your clients. There's a client focused demo. It focuses on the client benefits and some handouts for the client as well, just to see how it works and just how beneficial it can be to them.
Brilliant. And I think that's all the questions that we do have for now. But as I said, there's you're more than welcome to ask me or Rachel a question directly using our email addresses on screen. If you do have any inquiries into either software, if you wish to try or potentially purchase the software, then do get in contact with both Rachel and I. So thank you again for your attendance on this afternoon's webinar. We hope you did enjoy it. Yeah, any feedback would be greatly appreciated as well. So from me, thank you very much.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.